Welcome to section 1.3. We're dealing with solving equations. Again, this is an Algebra 1 review section, but I do want to highlight as we go through the fact that your work is amazingly important in this section. Without the work, you will not get full credit for the problems that you're doing. So be aware of that as you're going through. I want to slide this down a little bit so that we can kind of get more things on here, but let's take a look. I'm going to start again with the vocab, get that out of the way so we can talk about those first. As we start, an equation is two expressions set equal to each other. So basically an equation has an equal sign as you're going through. An expression, what we dealt with yesterday, is something that doesn't have the equals. So kind of be aware of the difference there. A linear equation has the form where, and I'm going to write it ax plus b equals, and I'm going to say c because I don't know what number this is. But if you look, the x, which is our variable, this is our variable, has an exponent of 1, and normally we don't write x to the first, we just say x. And that's what it means to be linear. It's basically to have your variable with an exponent of 1. So just kind of be aware of that. A solution is the number that makes the equation true. So it's the number that you would plug in your variable in order to make it a true statement. And the last one, equivalent equations. Let's make sure I spell. Equivalent equations are basically two equations which have the same answer or the same solution. So equivalent equations, okay? And we will show you some of that as well as we're going through. Now, one thing I want to talk about when you're solving, there's a difference between solving and simplifying or evaluating. What we did yesterday when we went and actually evaluated an equation is we used PEMDAS. Okay, so we used order of operations as we were going through. To solve basically means that you're going to work backwards. So to evaluate goes this way. To solve means you go backwards. So you start with your addition and subtraction, then multiplication and division, then exponents, then parentheses. Now the only change in that is before you do addition and subtraction, you may have to do some simplification. Okay, so we might first have to get rid of some parentheses or something just in case, but once it's simplified as far as it can be, then we start doing the things. We basically add or subtract first, okay, and then we're going to multiply or divide, and that's kind of as we're going through. So I wanted to give you this idea. The idea for 1.2, where we ask you to evaluate, means PEMDAS. In 1.3, when we ask you to solve for the answer, means you could do PEMDAS backwards. Okay, and so I'm going to highly emphasize that as we're going through. So let's slide down and let's actually try a couple. Now, this again is review from Algebra 1. If you're feeling though like, whoa, it's been a while, let me know. I mean, we're going to have class time to sit and work on this, but this is algebra. You did this again in geometry. I'm hoping this section is pretty nice. So let's take a look at number 1. Do I have anything parentheses-wise that I need to get rid of? If your answer is no, then we start backwards with PEMDAS. We say, okay, do I have addition or subtraction? The answer is yes. So I'm going to get rid of that first. To get rid of the -6, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. You need to show your work to both sides. So I have 15a equals, and I like to cross off the one that I know I'm getting rid of, my personal preference. 9 plus 6 makes 15. So we divide both sides by 15 because 15 is being multiplied by a. And again, I'm going to cross that off. 15 divided by 15 is 1, therefore a equals 1. What you'll want to make sure, though, is that answer is actually correct. So take the 1 and plug it back in. 15 times 1 is 15. Minus 6 makes 9. If you say that's correct, then I circle my answer. Okay? Let's get a little harder. Do I have parentheses to get rid of? If the answer is no, then we try and do the addition and subtraction first. So I have a plus 3. To get rid of a plus 3, I minus 3. That goes away. So 5 over 6y equals 13 minus 3 is 10. Now, you can divide by 5/6. My concern with that is if you plug that into your calculator wrong, you get the wrong answer. So we're going to go a little bit better way. Instead of dividing by a fraction, we multiply by its reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by the flipped version of that fraction, because 6 is on top and bottom, so that cancels. 5 is on top and bottom, so that cancels. And we've basically kind of done a conversion like we did in the first part. Well, if I make this 10 over 1, 10 times 6 is 60. 60 divided by 5 is 12, therefore y equals 12. Again, before you actually circle your answer to suggest that that is correct, you should plug 12 back in and make sure that it works. To save us some time, I will tell you it does. Okay, let's get a little harder. Take a look at 3. 3, we've got some parentheses, so before we do anything, we should make sure we simplify this. So I'm going to distribute on both sides. I've got 9x minus 6 equals 7 times 4 is 28 with an x. 7 times 3 is 21. And then I've got this minus 31x. Okay, now again, is this most simplified? The answer is no. So I'm going to try and simplify this a little bit further by combining like terms, and then I'm going to start doing my work. All right, 28 and negative 31 is negative 3x plus 21. Now, this is different from the ones that were above, because the ones that were above only had one variable, and this time I have it on both sides. So here's what I personally always do. I always take the lowest variable quantity and I move that. In this case, I have either a 9x or a negative 3x, and negative 3 is smaller. So what I'm going to do is move the negative 3. Because it's negative, I'm going to add it. And I want to show you what happens. If I add it, 9 plus 3 is 12x minus 6 equals 21. Now this has the same form as the number 1. So now that it's as simplified as I can go, now if I wanted, I could just do the work from above. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. 12x equals 27. I can divide by 12x equals. Now I can reduce this fraction because both of these are divisible by 3. If I divide 27 by 3, I get 9. If I divide 12 by 3, I get 4. This is the answer I'm looking for. Okay? So once you get variables on both sides, I think personally the easiest way is to find the smallest x and move that over. Okay? Now number 4, you want your note points for today? Do this question on your own. If you bring it to me done, that will get you the completed 10 points for notes. If you come and it's not done, you'll have a max of 5. So there are going to be times when I'm going to ask you to do your own questions in order to make sure that you're actually watching the video or at least doing the work. Okay? 6 is going to be another one that's on your own, because you can just use your calculator with the decimal stuff if you need. So there's going to be another one that I do on your own. But number 5 is my all-time favorite question. Let me give you a hint. You will have to do this question again, or something very, very similar to it. Now, here's the problem. Most people look at this question and they skip it. And the reason for skipping is truly because there are fractions. In my class, you will never be able to get away without dealing with fractions. But what I can show you is a shortcut, okay? What I want to show you is that if you look at your denominators, I've got 5, 6, 10, and 3. There is a number that they all have in common, or that they all go into. If you look, 5 times 6 is 30, and 10 times 3 is 30. So they all are factors of 30. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 30. and let me show you what happens when I do this. If I take 30 divided by 5, I get 6. 6 times 2 is 12 with an x. And if you did in your calculator 30 times 2/5, you should get 12. Well, 30 divided by 6 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5, so it's plus 5. Equals 30 divided by 10 is 3. Times 3 is 9, so 9x. And 30 divided by 3 is 10, times 1 is 10, so plus 10. And what you'll notice is that by multiplying by the number that they all go into, what I have done is eliminated the fractions. And now that I'm here, this question is just like the question above it. I'm going to take my smallest x quantity, which is the 9, because it's positive. To get rid of it, I'm going to subtract. So I move the 9x over, and I get 3x plus 5 equals 10. And I subtract 5, so 3x equals 5. And when I divide by 3, I get that x is 5/3. Okay? And again, I will tell you if you plug it back in, it works. Now, calculator to plug back in might be a better idea. But as you're looking at this, here is my hint. Again, we're going to practice more of these in class, boy, are we. But taking a look, again, if you can multiply by a number where the denominators are factors, you can eliminate every fraction as you go through. Okay? Now, what we're going to do, because you're going to do 4 and 6 on your own, please be aware of that. That has to be done for points for your notes. What we're going to do is look at some of the story problems on the back. And actually, you know what? I'm only going to do one. Yep, I'm going to do one, and then the rest we're going to talk about in class. Again, what we'll do then is we'll talk about it in terms of Iraq. And I'm actually going to go to number 2 for today. But I want to do number 2 together to see the percentage idea, and then I'm going to go back tomorrow and let's do one in class in an Iraq version. Okay, and we talked about that version yesterday in class. So take a look. A real estate agent's base salary is $22,000 per year. If the agent earns a 5% commission on their sales, how much must the agent sell in order to earn $60,000 for the year? Now, both of these, if you notice, they talk about the year. So that per doesn't necessarily matter because they're all talking about that 1 year time period. Okay, so that's kind of key. Now, we want to know when we define our variable, it is what are we trying to find? And I'm going to call my variable x. It doesn't matter, again, this is pretty standard. But this is basically my total sales. Because I earn a commission on my sales, and so the question is how much do I have to sell? So I'm looking for my amount sold. So if I write my equation, I want to earn $60,000. So that's what I want this to equal when I'm done. Currently, I earn $22,000. No matter what I sell, I earn $22,000. Because it doesn't matter what I sell, it doesn't need a variable with it. So I have $22,000 no matter what. But on top of that, which means in addition to, I get 5% of my sales. And usually of means multiply. Now, 5% you need to put mathematically. So instead of 5%, we're going to change it to a decimal, which means we're going to divide by 100%, and you get 0.05. And so this is the number that we're going to use. So they get 5% on my sales, which we said sales means X. So here's my equation. I get 5% on my sales, and usually anytime you have a percentage, you're going to multiply by a variable. Plus I get the $22,000 no matter what equals the $60,000 I want. Now, once you're here, let's start solving. I know that my variable is here, so I'm going to move the extra $22,000. I was adding it, so now I've got to subtract it. So I have $38,000 equals 0.05x. I I apologize for that. I'm obviously recording in the middle of school. But take a look. If I divide them by 0.05, okay, I end up getting that my sales have to be approximately $760,000. Now, we're talking about real estate agents, and let me just put this in context for you a second. A real estate agent can sell as many houses as they want in order to get their sales. Now, assuming that they're selling houses here in Michigan, my guess is this is not going to be one house. This could be made of like 4 to 5 houses, maybe here in Michigan. But really, did they ask that? No, they don't care. But it's worth a discussion at least to say, okay, if I wanted to be in real estate and I had to make this amount of money per year just to get 60 grand as a salary, then I would probably have to sell 4 to 5 houses, maybe 6, maybe 7, I don't know. But at least more than 4 houses probably in order to be able to make that sales. Now I'm going to cross this off because again, it's not relevant and we don't know how much a house is, but it's just nice to have that discussion point to say, is this a realistic amount or not? In California, might be super easy. In Michigan, maybe not so much. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. The number 1 above, we're going to work on in class tomorrow. It will most likely be your warm-up. But for the rest, again, we're going to practice some story problems just as is. We're going to do some story problems in our Iraq format. So just kind of be aware as you're going. But that's the end of section 1-3. If you get a chance, go ahead and start some of your homework early. If not, we will be working on it in class.